Chapter 1, Rebirth in the Outer Sex. Darkness. That was all Lu Yun saw. Endless, suffocating darkness. He remembered the screech of tires, the blinding headlights, the violent impact, and then silence. The kind that seeps into your bones and whispers that you'll never wake up again. But then he did. A sharp, stinging pain jolted through his body like lightning. He gasped, lungs burning, and opened his eyes to a sky laced with drifting clouds and the scent of wet earth and blood. He blinked, disoriented. The last thing he remembered was crossing the street near his university. Now he was lying at the edge of a mountain cliff, battered and barely alive. "Where am I?" he croaked, voice hoarse. Then it hit him, a rush of unfamiliar memories, not his own. They poured into his mind like a torrent, a second life layered atop his own. He was Lu Yun, yes, but not the same one. This Lu Yun was a 16-year-old servant of the Green Lotus sect, a bottom-feeding sect in the Azure Cloud continent. Weak, talentless, abused. Beaten by an outer disciple for daring to touch a cultivation manual and thrown off a cliff like garbage. Lu Yun clenched his fists. His soul had replaced the originals, but the pain, humiliation, and despair still lingered. This world was cruel, ruled by strength. And he had none. Until a voice echoed in his head. Ding! Hundredfold cultivation system bound successfully. All cultivation, resource absorption, technique comprehension, and martial training results will be amplified by 100 times. His eyes widened. A translucent blue panel appeared before him like a game interface. Name, Lu Yun, age, 16, cultivation, none, system, hundredfold cultivation system, active, effect, all cultivation results will be multiplied by 100. His heart thumped wildly in his chest. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't hallucinating. A second chance. No, a miracle. He staggered to his feet, body aching but spirit burning with renewed purpose. Around him stretched the remote, jagged terrain of the sect's outskirts. The cliff hadn't been as high as he feared. Vines and bramble had cushioned his fall. He was lucky. For now. He found a shallow stream nearby and washed the blood from his face. The reflection that stared back was thin, ragged, but no longer helpless. Determination gleamed in his eyes. He needed to get back to the sect, stay hidden, and begin cultivating immediately. He returned to the servant quarters before sunset. Dozens of other servants lived there, crammed into a damp wooden shed that stank of sweat and mold. They stared at him in silence, recognizing the bruised, half-dead youth who had vanished days ago. But no one asked questions. Curiosity killed in this world. He collapsed onto his straw mat and waited until the others fell asleep. That night, under the flickering oil lamp, Lu Yun pulled a small scroll from beneath the floorboards. The original Lu Yun had stolen it, a basic chi gathering technique called Emerald Lotus Breathing. It was the reason he'd been beaten. Lu Yun opened the scroll and began reading. Ding! Technique comprehension activated. Due to hundredfold cultivation system, comprehension speed increased 100x. Lines of text, diagrams of meridian flows, and breathing patterns seared themselves into his mind. What would take others days or weeks, he grasped in moments. An hour later, he understood it perfectly. No, he had mastered it. He crossed his legs, steadied his breathing, and initiated the Emerald Lotus breathing technique. Chi, faint and elusive, began to swirl from the surrounding air. He guided it through his body, just as the scroll instructed. It entered his meridians, moved toward his dantian. He felt a spark ignite deep within. Ding! She absorbed 0.5 units x 100 is equal to 50 units. Congratulations! You have broken through to chi gathering first stage. Warmth surged through his core. Lu Yun's eyes shot open, disbelief flashing across his face. One session. One attempt. He had broken through. A cripple, no longer. A cultivator, reborn. He bit his lip to keep from laughing aloud. The others were still asleep. He couldn't expose himself. Not yet. The next morning, Lu Yun awoke to faint rays of light filtering through the cracked wooden walls. His body was still sore, but it pulsed with new energy. His limbs were lighter, senses sharper. Chores that had taken hours before, hauling water, scrubbing the outer halls, chopping firewood, he finished with ease. The other servants looked at him oddly. "You sure you're all right?" one of them muttered. "You were half dead a few days ago." Lu Yun smiled faintly. "Guess I'm tougher than I look." But inwardly, he was already counting the hours until nightfall. That night, he cultivated again. The energy flowed more smoothly. Ding! She absorbed 1.2 units x 100 is equal to 120 units. Congratulations! You have broken through to Qi gathering second stage. His dantian expanded. His breathing grew deeper. His body stronger. On the third night, Qi gathering third stage. On the fifth, fourth stage. He was advancing faster than any disciple in the outer sect. Faster than logic allowed. But he hid it. Always at night. Always silent. He trained sword strikes using a rusted blade discarded by a disciple. The most basic of moves. Slash. Thrust. Block. Ding. Swordsmanship, basic sword style detected. Training effect multiplied x 100. Every swing was worth 100. He moved like a blur beneath the moonlight, carving the air with unseen arcs. Within a single night, he had mastered a sword style most struggled with for months. No one could know. He had to stay beneath notice, for now. But power never hides for long. Days later, while sweeping near the alchemy courtyard, he overheard two disciples whispering. Senior brother Duan reached foundation establishment yesterday. 19 years old. The elders are impressed. Foundation establishment. The realm beyond Qi gathering. The gateway to true cultivation. Lu Yun's grip tightened on the broom handle. He was only 16. They were praising a genius, but one day, he'd leave even them in the dust. That night, he didn't just train. He pushed himself. He meditated until his bones ached. He swung his sword until his hands bled. And when dawn broke, he was already Qi gathering fifth stage. He hid his wounds beneath his sleeves and smiled politely as he poured tea for an outer disciple who barely looked at him. No one saw him coming. And by the time they did, it would already be too late. Lu Yun looked up at the rising sun, golden light casting fire across the sky. This world belonged to the strong. And he would become stronger than anyone. No matter what. Chapter 2, The Outer Sect Trials. The sun hung high above the Green Lotus sect, casting a golden hue across the mountains, yet Lu Yun's heart was already racing as he stood in line among dozens of hopeful servants. Word had spread like wildfire, the annual Outer Sect entry trials had begun. Once a year, lowly servants were given a sliver of hope, a chance to rise above their station. Out of hundreds, maybe 5 would be accepted. Fewer still would survive the following year. But Lu Yun's eyes were calm, steady. The world around him buzzed with nervous energy, shaky breaths, clenched fists, silent prayers. Most had trained for years for this day, stealing time between chores, risking beatings for every stolen moment of cultivation. Lu Yun? He had trained for less than 2 weeks. Yet he already stood at the peak of Qi gathering fifth stage. He glanced at the disciple in front of him, a tall youth with sun-darkened skin and a heavy wooden club strapped to his back. Muscles rippled under his robe, and his aura pulsed with power, Qi gathering fourth stage at least. Lu Yun closed his eyes briefly. He could crush this man with one strike. Next, the elder called from the stone platform ahead, and the youth stepped forward. Lu Yun's gaze followed him, observing carefully. The elder overseeing the test was a gray-robed man named Elder Mo, known for his strict discipline and sharp tongue. Before him floated a glowing jade orb, the Qi resonance stone. When a cultivator placed their palm upon it, it would reveal their cultivation stage in a brilliant flash. The youth pressed his palm against it. The orb glowed bright green. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Qi gathering 4th stage. He'll definitely make it. He's the strongest so far. Elder Mo gave a slight nod, indifferent. Pass. Next. One by one, the line shortened. Most only reached the 1st or 2nd stage. A few were rejected outright. Some broke into tears. Others stormed away. Lu Yun stepped forward as his name was called. Lu Yun? Poof. You're that cripple who vanished a week ago, aren't you? Elder Mo frowned as he looked over a bamboo slip. You were beaten and thrown from a cliff, were you not? How are you even standing? Lu Yun met his gaze calmly. I survived. Elder Mo's brows twitched, but he gestured to the orb. Place your hand. Lu Yun exhaled slowly and stepped up. Dozens of eyes watched him, servants, outer disciples, even the young man with the club. He pressed his hand to the orb. Silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, phoom! The orb blazed with intense emerald light, far brighter than any before. Gasps filled the air. Qi gathering 5th stage. What? That's impossible. Didn't they say he was crippled? Elder Mo's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped. What pill did you take? Who helped you? No one, Lu Yun replied truthfully. I trained on my own. Elder Mo didn't believe it. But the result was right in front of him. He couldn't dispute it. Pass. Step aside, he said coldly. Lu Yun obeyed, ignoring the stares boring into his back. He felt no pride, no joy. Only clarity. This was just the beginning. After the last servant tested, only 4 had passed, including Lu Yun. The others were taken to the outer disciple compound, where their real training would begin. Compared to the muddy servant quarters, the outer sect dormitories were clean, with individual rooms, proper meals, and access to real cultivation resources. For most, this was heaven. For Lu Yun, it was just another stepping stone. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat cross-legged in his new room, breathing in the faint qi that lingered in the air. He focused, drew it in, and pushed it through his meridians. Ding! Qi absorbed, 2.1 units x 100 is equal to 210 units. Congratulations! You have broken through to qi gathering 6th stage. His body surged with power. Muscles tightened. Bones crackled. His senses heightened. He opened his eyes. It was time to accelerate. Now that he was an outer disciple, he had access to the sect's library. The next morning, he walked through the marble hallways of the library, filled with wooden shelves and ancient scrolls. Most disciples avoided the deeper sections, they were filled with low-level manuals. But Lu Yun sought those out. He picked up a footwork technique called wind step movement and a palm technique called iron vein strike. He sat in the corner, reading them both. Ding! Technique comprehension activated. Wind step movement comprehended. Iron vein strike comprehended. Due to hundredfold cultivation system, mastery complete. Lu Yun stood, rolled his shoulders, and left. That night, he tested the wind step technique under the cover of darkness. His body blurred, flickered, and then reappeared 10 meters away. Fast. Precise. Silent. He practiced the iron vein strike next. With a single palm, he shattered a training dummy reinforced with steel essence. The next day, the sect posted the combat trial rankings. All new outer disciples had to participate in a monthly ranking competition. Losers fell in rank. Winners earned contribution points and resources. Lu Yun signed up immediately. The competition would begin in 2 days. The disciples scoffed when they saw his name. The cripple thinks he can fight now? He's fast, but that's it. He'll get smashed. Senior brother Yen is joining too. He's already qi gathering 7th stage. Lu Yun didn't respond to any of it. He simply waited. When the day arrived, he stepped into the arena with calm steps. A circular stone platform stood in the center, surrounded by hundreds of spectators. His first opponent was a short youth with fierce eyes and twin daggers. "You're dead meat," the youth sneered. "Try me," Lu Yun replied. The elder referee raised his hand. "Begin." The youth shot forward, blades flashing. Lu Yun didn't move. At the last second, he sidestepped with windstep, blurring past the attack. His palm struck the youth's chest iron vein strike. The boy flew backward, gasping, and slammed into the arena wall. Silence. Lu Yun wins. The crowd erupted. His second match lasted longer, 10 seconds. The third? Just 5. Each time, he grew more precise. The final match placed him against Yan Ming, a cocky disciple with a spear and a smug grin. "You're not bad," Yan said. "But not good enough." "Let's find out," Lu Yun replied. The fight began. Yan struck fast, spear spinning like a whirlwind. Lu Yun dodged with windstep, then closed the gap in a heartbeat. Palm met ribs. Crack. Yan crumpled. Winner, Lu Yun. The arena fell into stunned silence. No one cheered. No one spoke. Elder Mo watched from above, eyes narrowed. Lu Yun walked off the platform, heart steady. That night, he received a jade token, first place, outer sect newcomers ranking. And a pouch of chi condensation pills. Lu Yun smiled faintly. The pills would last a week. Just enough time to reach the peak of chi gathering. He looked toward the towering mountain in the distance. The inner sect peak, where the true geniuses trained. He would reach there soon. No matter what stood in his way. Chapter 3, Rising Storm in the Inner Peaks. Lu Yun sat cross-legged beneath the moonlight, the soft glow casting silver ripples across his skin as a warm current surged through his meridians, brimming with power, alive with purpose. Each breath he took inhaled not just chi but the essence of the world itself, drawn into his dantian like a dragon absorbing the sea. Before him lay the open pouch of chi condensation pills, 6 in total, each worth a small fortune to an ordinary disciple, but to Lu Yun they were mere kindling to his blazing cultivation furnace. He took one pill, felt the surge of energy burst inside him, a fierce wave trying to rampage through his system, and tamed it with ease. Ding! Chi absorbed, 80 units x 100 is equal to 8,000 units. Congratulations! You have broken through to Chi Gathering's 7th stage. He didn't stop. One pill after another, his cultivation soared. 8th stage. 9th stage. By the time the final pill dissolved in his body, Lu Yun's entire frame buzzed with pure power. Ding! Congratulations! You have reached the peak of Chi Gathering realm. He opened his eyes, exhaled a long breath, and felt the mountain wind tremble ever so slightly. He stood and looked at his hands, not just calloused and strong, but humming with the potential to shatter boulders and split steel. It was time to prepare for the next step, foundation establishment. In the cultivation world, this was the true dividing line between mortals and immortals in training. But the path was not so simple. Foundation establishment required not only cultivation strength, but a foundation pill and elixir refined by a skilled alchemist, rare and expensive, often reserved for inner sect disciples or those with powerful backers. Lu Yun had none. He was alone. Yet he was not worried. That morning, as the sect bustled with daily routines, news began to spread like wildfire. Lu Yun, the former servant, had defeated senior brother Yan Ming and claimed the top rank in the outer sect's new disciple tournament. Jealousy flared like wildfire. Envy took root. Rumors swirled like poison mist. He must have used some forbidden pill. A hidden expert must be backing him. He's too fast. It's unnatural. And deep within the Elder Pavilion, Lu Yun's name was now engraved on a report that reached the inner sanctums of the Green Lotus sect. Elder Mo sat in silence, rereading the file, his eyes dark. Too fast, he murmured. No one progresses like that. Unless, he left the sentence unfinished. That afternoon, Luyan received a summons. He was to report to the outer hall to accept his reward for placing first. There, he was presented with a robe bearing the sex emblem, a token worth 500 contribution points, and a sealed jade slip. He bowed respectfully, but as he turned to leave, a voice rang out. Hold! It was Zhang Yu, one of the sect's inner geniuses. Tall, dressed in a snow-white robe with a silver lotus embroidery, and exuding confidence, his cultivation already well into. Chapter 3, Rising Storm in the Inner Peaks. Luyan sat cross-legged beneath the moonlight, the soft glow casting silver ripples across his skin as a warm current surged through his meridians, brimming with power, alive with purpose. Each breath he took inhaled not just qi but the essence of the world itself, drawn into his dantian like a dragon absorbing the sea. Before him lay the open pouch of qi condensation pills, 6 in total, each worth a small fortune to an ordinary disciple, but to Luyan they were mere kindling to his blazing cultivation furnace. He took one pill, felt the surge of energy burst inside him, a fierce wave trying to rampage through his system, and tamed it with ease. Ding! Qi absorbed, 80 units x 100 is equal to 8,000 units. Congratulations! You have broken through to Qi Gathering's 7th stage. He didn't stop. One pill after another, his cultivation soared. 8th stage. 9th stage. By the time the final pill dissolved in his body, Luyan's entire frame buzzed with pure power. Ding! Congratulations! You have reached the peak of Qi Gathering realm. He opened his eyes, exhaled a long breath, and felt the mountain wind tremble ever so slightly. He stood and looked at his hands, not just calloused and strong, but humming with the potential to shatter boulders and split steel. It was time to prepare for the next step, foundation establishment. In the cultivation world, this was the true dividing line between mortals and immortals in training. But the path was not so simple. Foundation establishment required not only cultivation strength, but a foundation pill and elixir refined by a skilled alchemist, rare and expensive, often reserved for inner sect disciples or those with powerful backers. Luyan had none. He was alone. Yet he was not worried. That morning, as the sect bustled with daily routines, news began to spread like wildfire. Luyan, the former servant, had defeated senior brother Yen Ming and claimed the top rank in the outer sect's new disciple tournament. Jealousy flared like wildfire. Envy took root. Rumors swirled like poison mist. He must have used some forbidden pill. A hidden expert must be backing him. He's too fast. It's unnatural. And deep within the Elder Pavilion, Luyan's name was now engraved on a report that reached the inner sanctums of the Green Lotus sect. Elder Mo sat in silence, rereading the file, his eyes dark. Too fast, he murmured. No one progresses like that. Unless, he left the sentence unfinished. That afternoon, Luyan received a summons. He was to report to the outer hall to accept his reward for placing first. There, he was presented with a robe bearing the sex emblem, a token worth 500 contribution points, and a sealed jade slip. He bowed respectfully, but as he turned to leave, a voice rang out. Hold! It was Zhang Yu, one of the sect's inner geniuses. Tall, dressed in a snow-white robe with a silver lotus embroidery, and exuding confidence, his cultivation already well into. Foundation establishment realm. He stepped down the stairs of the hall with slow, deliberate steps. I've heard much about you, Luyan, he said, his tone polite but his eyes cold. A servant who became number 1 in a week? That's quite the tale. Luyan met his gaze, voice steady. I only followed the rules of the trial. Of course, Zhang Yu smiled faintly. But rules sometimes conceal truth. I hope you'll spar with me at the Martial Peak. Just a friendly exchange. Around them, disciples quieted instantly. A dual invitation from an inner sect genius was a challenge few could refuse, and fewer still survived. Luyan nodded. Tomorrow. Sunset. The Martial Peak was a massive arena carved into the side of the eastern mountain, surrounded by cascading waterfalls and wind-carved statues of past sect heroes. When the time came, the peak was already filled with spectators, eager to see the arrogant newcomer be put in his place. Lu Yun stepped into the center calmly, dressed in the new outer sect robe. Zhang Yu stood across from him, hands behind his back, radiating calm superiority. "You may make the first move," Zhang Yu offered, as if granting mercy. Lu Yun didn't answer. He moved. His body vanished like a blur, wind step activated to full capacity. The crowd gasped. Zhang Yu raised a brow, barely catching the flicker of motion. Lu Yun's palm came crashing down iron vein strike. Zhang Yu blocked with a casual wave, a ripple of qi dispersing the force. Impressive, he admitted, taking a step back. But not enough. He drew a silver sword from his spatial ring, its blade gleaming with cold light. "Let me show you the difference between qi gathering and foundation establishment." With a single motion, he unleashed a wave of sword energy, slicing the air apart in a whistling arc. Lu Yun sidestepped and struck again, channeling his qi with precision, evading each attack by a hair's breadth, reading Zhang Yu's movements like a book. On the 10th exchange, their blows clashed fully. Boom! Dust exploded across the arena floor. The disciples leaned forward, eyes wide. From within the cloud, two figures emerged: Lu Yun, panting slightly, and Zhang Yu, his sword arm trembling faintly. "He forced senior brother to retreat," someone whispered. Zhang Yu narrowed his eyes. "You've refined your qi far beyond what your stage allows. But you've reached your limit." Lu Yun shook his head. "Not even close." He dropped into a stance, channeling all his strength into his dantian. Qi burst forth like a volcano, wrapping around his limbs. One final blow. He vanished again, reappeared behind Zhang Yu, and struck with a thunderous palm. Zhang Yu spun, sword raised, but too late. The strike landed squarely on his chest. Boom! The force sent him skidding backward across the arena, his feet carving deep grooves into the stone. He came to a stop, face pale, robe torn. A deathly silence fell over the crowd. Winner Lu Yun, the referee finally announced. Gasps turned into chaos. Shouts, disbelief, awe. Elder Mo, watching from a distant balcony, closed his eyes. A storm is coming. That night, Lu Yun sat alone on his rooftop, gazing at the stars. He had defeated a foundation establishment cultivator while still in qi-gathering realm. No one could explain it. No one could believe it. And no one could stop what came next. He would need a foundation pill soon. And resources. And strength more than ever before. Because he knew now that the higher he rose, the more enemies he would make. The sect would not ignore him much longer. Nor would those above the inner peaks. And in the shadows of the distant mountains, ancient eyes had already begun to turn toward Lu Yun. Watching. Waiting. Chapter 4, Secrets Beneath the Sect. The wind whispered through the green lotus sect as night fell, carrying with it the scent of dew-drenched pine and ancient stone, but Lu Yun was not resting. He stood before the sealed gates of the hidden vault beneath the alchemy hall, his gaze fixed, heart steady. Only top outer sect disciples with high contribution points could gain access here, and after defeating Zhang Yu, Lu Yun's sudden fame had earned him not only whispers but fear, along with a personal summons from Elder Qin, the sect's chief alchemist, who had handed him a jade slip marked with a golden flame. "You seek a foundation pill," the old man had said, eyes sharp as needles. "Very well. But everything has a price." Lu Yun knew that truth better than anyone. As the gates rumbled open, a wave of dense medicinal qi rushed over him like a tidal wave, rich and intoxicating, and he stepped inside. Shelves of jade bottles and scrolls lined the vast chamber, guarded by puppet sentinels carved from stone and spirit wood, their eyes glowing dimly. Lu Yun walked slowly, reading each label. Spirit Restoration Elixir, Meridian Tempering Powder, Core Flame Essence. He paused before a crystal pedestal where a single black jade bottle rested, sealed with 3 talismanic bands. Foundation Pill, Grade, High. The price tag read, 12,000 contribution points. Far beyond what he had. His fingers clenched. Even with his top-rank status, he barely had 700 points left after purchasing basic resources. But before he could turn away, a notification rang quietly in his mind. Ding! Mission triggered, Secret of the Forgotten Well. Objective: investigate the abandoned well behind the East Herb Garden. Reward: 15,000 contribution points. Time limit: 3 days. Lu Yun's eyes narrowed. A hidden quest? He hadn't expected the system to provide this way. Without hesitation, he turned and left the vault, slipping through the night like a shadow until he reached the overgrown herb garden. Few disciples came here anymore. It was said the herbs had all withered decades ago after a strange incident during a lightning storm. At the far end stood a moss-covered stone well, dry and cracked, surrounded by ancient vines. Lu Yun crouched and examined the runes faintly etched into the stone's warding scripts, damaged and faded. Something had been sealed here once. Carefully, he placed his hand against the stone. A faint click echoed below. The ground trembled, and the bottom of the well cracked open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Drawing his breath, Lu Yun stepped into the gloom. The air turned cold, damp, and heavy with spiritual pressure. Torches along the wall flickered to life one by one as he descended, each step feeling like a descent into a forgotten realm. At the bottom lay a massive underground cavern, and at its center, an altar carved with dragon and lotus motifs. Floating above it was a shimmering crystal sphere. Within it, a humanoid figure sat cross-legged, his body wrapped in chains of light. A sealed cultivator? Lu Yun muttered. Ding! Quest updated, release the Guardian. Defeat the trial beast. Claim the flame lotus mark. The moment he stepped closer, the cavern trembled. A deep growl echoed from the shadows, and from behind the altar, a monstrous beast emerged, a massive horned tiger with red eyes, its fur covered in shifting flame patterns. It was no ordinary spirit beast, this was a flame fawn guardian, at least core formation level in life, now sealed with only a fragment of its strength. But even a fragment was deadly. It pounced without warning, claws tearing through the air like blades. Lu Yun activated Wind Step, barely dodging the first strike, his body flickering like a phantom. He struck with Iron Vein Palm, but the beast's fur absorbed the impact with barely a twitch. His eyes narrowed, he needed more. Drawing a breath, he pulled out a new technique scroll he'd acquired from the vault's deeper shelves earlier, Crimson Chainbind, a control-type skill. Ding! Crimson Chainbind learned. Hundredfold bonus applied. Mastery achieved. He weaved his fingers in the air, forming crimson chains of chi that wrapped around the beast's limbs mid-charge. It roared, struggling, but Lu Yun was already in motion. He surged forward, channeled his peak chi gathering strength into his fist, and struck the beast's jaw with a thunderous blow. A crack rang out. The beast staggered. He didn't let up. Wind Step. Strike. Dodge. Bind. Strike again. Finally, with one last coordinated burst of chi, he drove his palm into the beast's chest. It howled and collapsed, its body turning into shimmering dust that spiraled into the crystal sphere. The chains around the seated figure vanished. The man's eyes opened slowly, golden, ancient, filled with sorrow and pride. You have the mark, the figure whispered. The flame lotus awakens once more. A blazing lotus pattern formed on Lu Yun's palm, burning with power. Ding! You have acquired the flame lotus mark. Secret quest complete. Reward: 15,000 contribution points. Secret flame technique unlocked. The underground altar pulsed, and a hidden compartment opened, revealing a storage ring. Inside were 2 foundation pills, a cultivation robe made of spirit silk, and a jade scroll labeled, Heaven Flame Lotus Breathing Art. Lu Yun's chest rose and fell as he absorbed the weight of the moment. 2 foundation pills. One for himself. The other, perhaps to barter for something more later. He returned to his room in silence, the lotus mark hidden under cloth, the scroll clutched tight. That night, he swallowed the first foundation pill. The energy was unlike anything before, fiery, vast, volatile. His meridians flared, and his dantian expanded like a galaxy unfurling. Pain lanced through his bones as they cracked and reformed. Muscles tore and regrew. His skin steamed. His soul trembled. He endured. He focused. Ding! You have successfully broken through to Foundation Establishment realm. Due to the Flame Lotus mark, your foundation is perfect here. All stats increased. New technique slots unlocked. Luyan opened his eyes, now glowing faintly gold, his presence deeper, more refined. He stood and breathed in the world anew. Everything was sharper, she moved like silk under his will. He had crossed the threshold. He was no longer just a rising star among outer disciples. He was now a cultivator on the true path to immortality. But even as the breakthrough light faded, shadows stirred in the higher halls of the sect. From a distant mountain peak, an elder opened his eyes. The Flame Lotus has returned, he whispered. It's beginning again. Luyan stood on his balcony, the stars above and the fire within lighting his path. He had climbed from the dirt and the beatings to now touch the threshold of power. But he knew one truth clearer than ever: the heavens give nothing freely. And now that he had stepped into the light, all eyes, human, beast, and otherwise, would begin to turn toward him. Chapter 5: Eyes of Heaven, Hands of Death. The morning sun bathed the Green Lotus sect in golden light, but peace was only a mask stretched over tension, for within the quiet, the rumors had become a storm. Luyan had broken through to Foundation Establishment, and not just any breakthrough, but a perfect foundation infused with the mysterious Flame Lotus mark, a legacy thought lost to time. And while most outer disciples whispered his name with awe or envy, the inner sect boiled with something far more dangerous: fear, ambition, and bloodlust. Luyan stood alone atop the Skywind cliff, where disciples went to comprehend the Tao of Wind, yet his mind was not on insight but on the summons he had received from the inner court, an official notice, sealed by Elder Mo himself, granting Luyan a provisional spot as an inner disciple, skipping all usual tests. It was a reward and a trap, a recognition and a signal. The sect would no longer ignore him, and neither would its enemies. As he descended the cliff, he passed disciples bowing with feigned smiles, their eyes calculating, measuring his worth and his weaknesses. He entered the inner peaks that afternoon, the air denser with chi, the buildings grander, and the eyes colder. His new residence was modest compared to the elite mansions carved into mountain faces, but it was far from the servant quarters he had once called home. There was no time to settle. Less than an hour later, he was summoned to the grand pavilion where 5 elders, including Elder Mo and Elder Ching, sat atop jade thrones, their gazes like daggers as they studied him. You possess the Flame Lotus mark, Elder Mo said, fingers tapping the armrest. It should not exist. And yet, Luyan replied calmly, it does. A tense silence followed, broken only when Elder Ching chuckled. He reminds me of a young fox. Too clever for his realm, Elder Mo muttered. Tell us, Luyan. Where did you obtain the mark? Beneath the sealed well in the eastern herb garden, Luyan answered truthfully, watching for reactions. Elder Mo's face darkened. That place was sealed for a reason. I didn't break the seal, Luyan said. The system gave me a mission. He didn't explain further, but the elder's eyes narrowed. A system. If that were true, then he was chosen by something far greater than their sect. Then let us see if the heavens truly favor you, Elder Mo said, gesturing. The blood trial awaits. Gasps echoed among watching disciples. The blood trial was an ancient tradition, a brutal life and death test reserved for those suspected of harboring forbidden power. Luyan didn't flinch. When? Now. He was escorted to the Blood Cavern, a vast underground battlefield, its walls etched with sigils that absorbed spiritual energy, preventing escape or communication. At the center of the cavern lay a black stone platform stained by generations of battle. Luyan stepped onto it, calm, as 10 gates opened one after another, and from each emerged a beast bred for death: flamehounds, bone-tail apes, a poisonite manticore, and at the center, a soul-splitting tiger with silver claws. This isn't a test, Luyan murmured, it's an execution. Ding. Survival mission triggered, blood trial of the flame. Objective, survive for 30 minutes or defeat all enemies. Bonus reward? All rewards multiplied 100x due to hundredfold cultivation system. The beasts charged. Lu Yun's chi surged, his body cloaked in golden light as he activated the flame lotus mark, burning lotus petals circling his arms, boosting his defense and attack. He vanished with windstep, reappeared above the first beast, and slammed a palm down with seismic force, crushing its skull. The manticore spat venom, he rolled under it, summoning crimson chains to bind its wings, then drove a strike into its spine. One by one, he fought, danced, bled, his bones cracked, his robe burned, but his eyes never wavered. The soul-splitting tiger leapt at him, claws flashing, and they clashed with a thunderous roar. Lu Yun summoned his newest technique, Heaven Flame Lotus Breathing Art, drawing in the scattered chi of the dead beasts, refining it instantly into blazing attacks. Petals burst from his fists, slicing through the battlefield like blades of flame. He struck the tiger's chest, again, until it fell with a final snarl. 30 minutes passed. Silence reigned. Lu Yun stood in a pool of blood, breathing heavily, eyes gleaming like polished gold. Ding! Blood trial complete. Reward, blood-tempered physique X 100. Bonus acquired, Spirit Mark of War. Title unlocked, Flame-Bathed Survivor. Above, the elders watched in grim silence. He should have died, one said. He didn't, Elder Ching replied. The heavens have chosen. Or cursed him, Mo added. But none could deny the truth, Lu Yun had surpassed the limits of a normal Foundation establishment cultivator. As he exited the trial ground, dozens of disciples watched him in awe and fear, parting silently like a tide. That night, assassins came, masked cultivators with spirit-dampening blades, their origins hidden, their intent murderous. But Lu Yun was ready. The flame lotus burned brighter now, its petals coiling around him like living fire. He slaughtered them without mercy, and before the last one died, Lu Yun forced off his mask only to reveal the face of an inner disciple, one sworn to protect the sect. Betrayal had begun. That same hour, Lu Yun found a sealed letter left at his door, written in fine script, "You've taken your first step into heaven. But know this: every star burns, and every flame attracts the wind. If you survive 10 more days, seek me in the hidden lightning hall. Lan Iran." He read it twice, eyes narrowing. He did not know this name, but instinct whispered, danger and opportunity. With his new strength, his new title, and the secrets growing around him, Lu Yun knew there was no going back. Not to peace, not to quiet, not to the life of the forgotten. The hundredfold path he walked now led only upward, through blood, through fire, through heaven itself. Chapter 6: The Lightning Hall and the Lady in Black. The full moon hung low over the mountains like a silver eye watching the sins of men, and Lu Yun stood at the base of the hidden lightning hall, an ancient structure sealed behind a wall of rumbling blue thunder, far from the usual paths of disciples, deep within the forbidden eastern range of the sect. None ventured here without permission, but the note he received bore the name Lan Iran, a name he could now trace to the inner court's silent legend, a woman said to be expelled, dead, or ascended, depending on who told the tale, yet whose presence stirred the ancient mechanisms of the sect into uneasy murmurs. Lightning licked the sky above him as he stepped forward, the jade talisman from the letter clutched in his hand glowing with faint pulses. The thunder wall parted just enough for his body to slip through, and the moment he entered, the air grew still like the breath before a storm, heavy with power and warning. The hall within was immense and circular, built of sky steel and dragonwood, its walls etched with bolt-shaped runes that flickered with ancient electricity, and at the center sat a woman in black robes, her face veiled, her presence sharp like a sword wrapped in silk, seated atop a throne of cracked obsidian and coiled lightning. "You came," she said, voice soft yet cold, ageless and deep, like someone who had lived 10 lives in silence. Lan Iran, Lu Yun greeted, cautiously, though his body remained relaxed, muscles coiled beneath his robes. "You sent the message?" "I did. Because the heavens have touched you, and the heavens are cruel." She rose slowly, every movement precise and graceful, and though her cultivation was suppressed, he could feel it. Foundation establishment, no, core formation, maybe even higher, concealed by technique or will. "You carry the flame lotus mark. And the system. You walk a path long buried." She circled him, examining not just his form but his soul, her eyes flickering with unreadable emotion. "Do you know what you are, Lu Yun?" He shook his head. "Only that I survived where others wanted me dead." Then listen, she said, raising her hand, and the runes in the chamber flared. Images appeared in the air: burning skies, falling stars, cultivators wielding divine flames and blades forged from lightning, and at the center of it all, a figure surrounded by 9 blazing lotuses, standing against a horde of black-cloaked immortals. Once, long ago, the Flame Lotus clan ruled the southern heavens, chosen by a divine system to elevate a mortal to true godhood. But the heavens hated what they could not control. They sent their executioners. Only one survived. He sealed the remnants of his power, shattered the line, and hid the system deep within the mortal world. She turned to him. You carry that legacy now. Whether by fate or design. Lu Yun's fists clenched, his heart pounding, not with fear, but with purpose. Then I'll finish what they couldn't. She tilted her head. Brave. Stupid. Familiar. She extended a hand. Join me. Not as master and disciple, but as allies. I will train you in what the sect won't. And in return, when the time comes, you will help me kill an immortal. The words hit like thunder. Lu Yun looked into her eyes, veiled yet vivid, and saw not madness but vengeance forged into clarity. He nodded once. Deal. Lightning flared around them, sealing the pact. The next moment, she tossed him a scroll. Storm-forged bones, she said. A forbidden body technique. You'll begin with that. Ding. Secret technique acquired, Storm-forged bones, legendary. Hundredfold bonus activated, Storm-forged bones, godly. Effect, converts lightning into internal tempering force. Enhances endurance, nerve response, spiritual control. Pain tolerance must exceed threshold. Warning, risk of death. Lu Yun smirked. Risk of death. That's becoming normal. He sat cross-legged without hesitation, opened the scroll, and began channeling the first verse instantly. His body seized as invisible lightning flooded into his bones, nerves crackling, muscles spasming, eyes bleeding tears of light, but he bit down on the pain, grinding through each pulse, his spiritual sea flashing with golden lotuses that fought to harmonize the storm. Laniran watched silently, unreadable. Hours passed. Blood pooled at his feet, his skin cracked, his veins pulsed black, and still he endured until a final bolt struck his spine and his entire body convulsed and then fell silent. Then rose. Slowly. Controlled. Evolved. His bones shone faintly with silver, his heartbeat now a rhythm of thunder. Ding. Storm-forged bones, godly, successfully cultivated. Body defense increased by 600%. Nerve reaction time enhanced. Spiritual energy channeling increased. New passive, Thunder Vortex, stores and releases lightning chi. Lu Yun stood, drenched in sweat and power. Laniran nodded once. You've passed the first trial. Now, prepare. For what? He asked. She turned away. The sect summit begins in 3 days. All outer and inner disciples will compete. But this year, the summit has a hidden stage, one designed to draw out the inheritor of the Flame Lotus. Lu Yun narrowed his eyes. They're baiting me. Exactly, she said. They want to see if you're the one. And if you are, they'll try to kill you before you're strong enough to stop them. Lu Yun didn't hesitate. Let them come. That night, as he returned to his new residence, lightning pulsing quietly in his veins, he sat alone under the stars, thoughts whirling, paths forming. He had a system. He had the mark. He now had an ally in the shadows and enemies in the light. The sect summit would be a battlefield, not just of strength but of destiny. And he would not bend. Chapter 7, Summit of Shadows, Trial of Flame. 3 days passed like the fleeting flash of a sword drawn in fury, and the Green Lotus sect was ablaze with activity as the Grand Sect Summit began, a once-a-decade event meant to select talents, showcase power, and reshuffle the hierarchy of both outer and inner disciples. But beneath the spectacle lurked venomous intentions. This year, the summit was more than ceremony, it was a trap, a hunt, a battlefield set for Lu Yun, the boy who had risen too far, too fast. The summit grounds were carved into the mountainside, a massive arena enclosed by towering walls of jade and spirit stones, watched by thousands of disciples and elders seated in circular tiers, with a floating platform above reserved for the core formation elders, the sect master himself veiled in golden mist. Luyan arrived in silence, dressed in the simple robes of an outer disciple, yet his presence turned heads like a fire in the snow, whispers rising with each step he took, eyes filled with admiration, jealousy, and dread. His name was now legend, and legends drew storms. Is that him? He survived the blood trial. They say he tamed thunder. Or that he killed an inner elder's heir. Shoo, he's looking this way. Luyan ignored them, walking to the center of the dueling stage where names were drawn for the first trial, martial elimination. 100 disciples would fight in 10 rings, the top 10 from each ring qualifying for the second trial. He was assigned to Ring 9, known mockingly as the Blood Ring, where the most dangerous cultivators had been placed either by coincidence or by silent design. His first opponent was Wei Tian, a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator with a twin blade style, arrogant and confident, sneering as he stepped onto the ring. "I heard you're strong, Luyan," he said. "Good. I like breaking bones that matter." Luyan simply nodded. "Then try." The match began. Wei Tian lunged, twin blades sweeping like twin dragons, his chi sharpened fast, but Luyan moved like lightning incarnate, his storm-forged bones humming with stored energy as he sidestepped, parried with his bare hand, and unleashed a reverse palm strike that shattered Wei Tian's ribcage, sending him flying from the ring before he even completed his second form. The crowd gasped. The elder watching the ring frowned. Next, Luyan said coldly. He faced 9 more opponents that day, and not one lasted more than 3 moves. Some tried brute force, others strategy, some even used forbidden talismans, but Luyan tore through them all with a calm like still water hiding a hurricane, his techniques clean, brutal, and flawless. He advanced to the second trial without injury, without pause, and without looking back. But it was in the second trial, held deep within the spirit forest, that the true danger began, because the trial was not combat, but survival. Each participant was teleported alone into the heart of the forest, given one directive: survive 3 days, defeat at least 1 spirit beast, and reach the summit of the forest mountain. What they didn't say was that this forest was home to ancient guardian beasts, and more than half the participants would not return. Ding! Survival trial triggered, spirit forest hunt. All rewards multiplied 100x due to hundredfold cultivation system. Bonus objective: slay an alpha spirit beast. Reward? Luyan landed silently beneath a canopy of black bark trees and glowing moss, the air thick with wild spiritual energy, his senses immediately sharpening as his system's map unfolded in his mind, revealing beast movements, chi disturbances, and hidden traps. On the first night, he was ambushed by a shadowhorn panther, an elite spirit beast that could suppress its presence. But Luyan baited it into charging, redirected its momentum with windstep, then activated Thunder Vortex and slammed his knee into its spine, stunning it before driving his palm through its skull. He extracted its core, sat beneath a lightning-struck tree, and began refining it through the heaven flame lotus breathing art, cultivating even in the wild. By dawn, his chi had thickened, his control had sharpened, and his spirit sea pulsed with molten gold. On the second day, he encountered other disciples, some wounded, some lost, some desperate enough to attack him. One group of 3 tried to rob him of beast cores. They never walked again. But Luyan spared one of them, a girl named Xiaoling, who claimed she had been framed and dumped into the blood ring to die. She had talent in poison arts and was from the now declining Azure Pill clan. For reasons he couldn't name, Luyan let her follow him for a time. She told stories as they walked, of factions within the sect, of the ones who whispered about Flame Lotus inheritance, of how Laniran had once been the sect master's secret heir but was betrayed and hidden away. Luyan listened, absorbed it all, and then saved her life when a stone-tusk basilisk ambushed them, crushing it with a descending lotus flame strike that burned through its armored hide like butter. That night, Luyan reached the base of the forest mountain and the system pinged again. Ding! Alpha Spirit Beast detected, Thunderscaled Rock, mid-tier rank 5. Estimated threat, very high. Warning, engaging this beast may result in death. Luyan smiled. That warning's never stopped me. He left Xiaoling behind with a hidden talisman and climbed the mountain alone. The thunder-scaled rock descended from the peak like a god of lightning, its wings the size of buildings, its eyes filled with killing intent. But Lu Yun stood still, waiting for the right moment, gathering chi from his thunder vortex until his arms glowed, then summoned a flame lotus beneath his feet, launched upward, and met the beast midair. The clash shook the entire forest, claws versus fists, lightning versus fire, wings against willpower, and when the final blow landed, Lu Yun fell from the sky in flames, unconscious, body battered. But he had won. Ding! Alpha Spirit Beast slain. Thunder Core absorbed. New inheritance awakened, Flame Thunder Lotus Body, 1%. Passive unlocked, Lightning Rebirth, 1 charge. Level advancement, Foundation establishment, late stage. He woke at dawn, lying beside the massive corpse, his wounds already healing, his veins burning with new energy. At the mountain peak, disciples and elders waited for those who succeeded. When Lu Yun walked out carrying the beast's head, the entire summit fell into stunned silence. He threw the head at the elders' feet. "Is that enough proof?" he asked. No one answered. They couldn't. But far above, hidden behind mist and divine talismans, the sect master's eyes narrowed. He's growing too fast. If the flame lotus awakens fully, he did not finish the sentence. Instead, he turned to an elder cloaked in silver, eyes glowing faintly. "Activate the third trial." "But, sect master, it's not ready, do it." That same moment, Lan Iran, watching from afar, whispered, "They'll try to break you, Lu Yun. But you've already begun to burn brighter than any sun." Chapter 8, The Third Trial, The Soul Mirror Labyrinth. As dawnlight bled through the high clouds above the Green Lotus sect, silence fell over the arena once more as a sudden decree echoed through the mountain air: "The third trial shall commence, Soul Mirror Labyrinth." Gasps rippled through the crowd, for this was not a standard part of the sect summit, this was a forbidden trial, one that had not been used in over 70 years due to the deaths and madness it brought. Lu Yun stood motionless as the stone beneath his feet shifted, the ground carving runes in golden light that formed a formation circle around him and the remaining 17 disciples, each of them hardened by the previous trials, but none more so than Lu Yun, who still bore the faint lightning scorch marks across his robes, and beside him, Xiaoling looked at the formation with dread in her eyes, whispering, "They're trying to break your mind." Without a word, Lu Yun stepped forward into the teleportation light, and his vision went dark. When it returned, he was standing in an endless hall of mirrors, the air cold and thick with spiritual fog, each mirror glowing faintly and showing not just reflections, but versions of him: Lu Yun standing proud in golden armor, Lu Yun dead and bloody in a ditch, Lu Yun laughing with friends he never had, Lu Yun kneeling to elders he would never serve, and worst of all, a mirror where he stood surrounded by corpses, his eyes empty and black. Ding! Soul Mirror Labyrinth Trial initiated. Objective: escape the maze in 6 hours. Warning: mental resistance will be tested. Every weakness exploited. 100x system activated. Bonus objective: face your true self and survive. Reward? Lu Yun inhaled deeply, his spirit core flaring faintly to resist the mental pressure as whispers crawled out of the fog like serpents. "You're just a lucky beggar, they will kill you when you sleep. You abandoned your family, you don't even know why you cultivate, what will you do when she betrays you too?" He gritted his teeth, taking his first step forward, his reflection moving with him, until suddenly, one mirror flashed and cracked, and his double stepped out, same clothes, same eyes, but a grin twisted with hatred. "You're just pretending to be strong," it said. "Let me show them the real you." They clashed, fist to fist, flame to flame, thunder to thunder, and Lu Yun found himself forced to counter his own techniques, his own speed, his own rage, until he realized, this wasn't a test of strength, but acceptance. He stopped, lowered his stance, and stared his reflection in the eyes. "You are me. And I'm not afraid." The copy hesitated, began to dissolve, and then shattered into light. Ding! First mirror passed. Mind resistance increased. For the next hour, he faced memories he thought buried. His father's death from a sickness they couldn't afford to treat, his own hunger and humiliation in the mortal slums, his first friend who vanished one winter night and never returned, the night the flame lotus burned into his chest and the elders tried to kill him, calling him cursed. Every mirror bled old pain, and every step forward cost him more strength. One mirror showed Lan Yiren dying because of him. Another showed Xiaoling smiling before poisoning his tea. And yet another showed the entire sect bowing to him, only to betray him the next moment. By the third hour, his breathing was ragged, his will frayed, and then came the final chamber, a circular space where 12 mirrors floated in midair, forming a lotus pattern. From each one, a different Lu Yun emerged. One was ruthless, a tyrant who burned cities. One was humble, bowed to the heavens and refused power. One was lost, drifting aimlessly through life. One was in chains, eyes hollow. And at the center stood a version of him wearing celestial robes, 9 flame lotuses orbiting him, divine chi radiating with impossible majesty. I am who you could become, the divine Lu Yun said. But only if you're willing to sacrifice everything. The others stepped forward, each shouting their own truth. Take the safe path. Kill them before they kill you. Run away from fate. Seek immortality, not vengeance. Love nothing, lose nothing. Destroy the sect. Rebuild it in your name. The real Lu Yun closed his eyes as they circled him, each voice tugging at a different part of his soul. The system pinged again. Ding. Final soul trial, fuse or destroy. Choose your path. He opened his eyes, stepped forward, and touched the divine reflection's chest. I don't want perfection. I want truth. Then he turned to the others, one by one. I'm not a tyrant. But I will not bow. I'm not a coward. But I fear failure. I'm not a god. But I will not be caged. I am Lu Yun. I choose my path, and no one else's. One by one, the reflections shattered or faded, until only the divine Lu Yun remained. He smiled, bowed, and dissolved into golden lotus petals. The chamber exploded in light. Ding! Soul Mirror Labyrinth completed. Reward, Flame Thunder Lotus Body, 7%. Unlocked. New technique awakened, Lotus Heart immune to soul illusions, mind poison, and mental attacks. Spirit Sea expanded. Willpower plus 300%. Lu Yun opened his eyes and found himself kneeling in the center of the arena, where only 5 others remained, Xiaoling among them, her face pale but determined, and all around them the elders whispered, murmured, studied. The sect master's golden mist thickened. He passed it? No. He broke it. The soul mirror bent to his will. Who is this boy? But in the shadows of the floating platform, a new figure emerged, an elder wrapped in pitch-black robes, his eyes like dead stars. The system has fully awakened. The Flame Lotus Inheritor walks again. Then so must I. Lu Yun stood slowly, breathing calmly, and raised his head to the heavens. This is just the beginning. Chapter 9, Hidden Blades, Open War. The summit grounds fell into an eerie stillness after the Soul Mirror Labyrinth concluded, yet beneath the applause and congratulatory words from the elders, a storm brewed in silence, its roots sinking deep into the politics of the Green Lotus sect, where eyes glowed behind veils and fans, and blades whispered behind words. Lu Yun, having survived 3 deadly trials and walked out stronger each time, had become more than a rising star. He was now a threat, a possibility that the status quo could shatter if left unchecked. The sect master, seated high above on his floating throne of jade mist, stared at the youth who had defied the soul mirror and emerged with the aura of a sovereign seed, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest. Summon Elder Mo, he said coldly, and from the shadows stepped a gaunt man dressed in ink-black robes laced with crimson veins, his presence sharp enough to slice chi. I want the boy tested once more, publicly. We will declare it an honor, a challenge from the inner sect elites. Elder Mo bowed without a word, vanishing into the mist. Meanwhile, Lu Yun sat in silent cultivation within his new quarters, a peakside cave gifted to him for surviving all 3 trials, though he knew well it was no kindness, merely a stage from which the whole sect could observe his next move. His cultivation surged with each breath, flames and thunder dancing through his meridians like twin serpents chasing heaven, the flame thunder lotus body refining not just his chi but his soul, and with it came the whispers of new insight, new powers just beyond the veil, techniques waiting to be understood, lotus petals waiting to bloom. As he sat, the system pulsed. Ding! New passive detected. Soul Lotus resonance amplifies mental pressure in a 10-meter radius. Weak-minded targets may faint or hallucinate. Hidden trial available. Lotus Spear Awakening. Warning: completing the hidden trial may expose you to targeted assassination. Luyan opened his eyes slowly, looking toward the stone walls of the cave, as if seeing through them. So it begins, he murmured. Later that afternoon, an announcement rang across the sect. By decree of the Inner Elders, Luyan is granted the rare honor of a sect ascension duel. His opponent, Yen Cheng of the Inner Court, ranked 5th among the elite, peak core formation, triple spirit root with wind, ice, and sword Dao. The disciples burst into uproar. They're sending a core formation against a foundation stage? That's murder. But it's allowed under sect ascension rules. He's being silenced. This is the sect's way of getting rid of him legally. But Luyan only said 5 words when Xiaoling brought him the news: I'll be ready by dawn. That night, he sat alone under the stars, refining the thunder core he claimed from the rock, while memories flickered through his mind. His first strike against the Stonefang boar, his breathless survival in the blood ring, the false smiles of elders who praised him and poisoned him in the same breath, Lan Iran's quiet eyes watching from the sidelines, always just out of reach. Morning came like a blade drawn from a sheath. The sect ascension duel was to be held on the Heaven Root platform, a place of legend carved into the sky itself, suspended by ancient formations, accessible only by jade bridges guarded by talismanic beasts. Luyan arrived with wind in his hair and fire in his veins, dressed in black robes embroidered with a single crimson lotus, his step steady, eyes calm. Opposite him stood Yen Cheng, tall, cold-eyed, with a spiritual sword hovering behind his back that hummed with killing intent. I will not mock you, Yen Cheng said. You've earned the right to die with honor. Luyan nodded. Then don't hold back. The elder officiating the duel raised his hand. Begin. Yen Cheng vanished, reappearing behind Luyan with a flash of ice and wind, slashing downward with a condensed sort of spiritual frost, but Luyan twisted, summoned a flame lotus to his palm, and clashed head-on, the collision sending shockwaves through the platform. The disciples watching below could barely follow the movements. He blocked it? With fire? But Yen Cheng is peak core formation. He's not just blocking, he's matching him strike for strike. The system pulsed. Ding! Combat synchronization reached. Initiating Lotus Spear Awakening sequence. Luyan spun backward, both hands weaving complex seals midair, his cheek condensing into a spiraling lance of flame and thunder, 10 feet long, shaped like a blooming lotus petal. Thunder Lotus Spear, first form, Heaven pierces root. He hurled the spear forward, and Yen Cheng's expression finally shifted, his sword rising in panic as the spear tore through space itself, colliding with his defense and shattering it like porcelain. Blood sprayed as Yen Cheng was flung backward, crashing into the edge of the platform, his sword shattered, his aura flickering. The elder stepped forward to declare the victor, only to freeze as a voice rang from the clouds above. Enough! A golden figure descended, cloaked in divine mist, wearing robes inscribed with ancient seals, the Grand Elder of the Sword Hall, Yen Cheng's great uncle. Luyan, he said, his voice slow and cold. You've proven your strength. But you've also declared war. Luyan looked up at the floating elder and said without fear, I don't start wars. But I will end them. A heavy silence fell before the elder turned away. From this day forward, the Green Lotus sect is split. Let those who dare stand with Luyan step forward. The rest, prepare for the flames to come. And thus, in front of thousands, the sect itself fractured, not in banners, not in names, but in hearts and hidden daggers. The age of peace was over. War within the sect had begun. Chapter 10, The Lotus That Burns Heaven. The world of the Green Lotus sect had changed overnight. After Luyan's victory over Yen Cheng and his defiance of the Sword Hall Grand Elder, the sect's once unified structure cracked like dry earth under pressure. Though no formal war had been declared, everyone could feel it in the air, the way elders gathered behind closed doors, how disciples whispered in corners, how outer court missions suddenly turned deadly, and how loyalists to Luyan began disappearing during night patrols. It was not yet war, but it was already bloodshed. Luyan, now marked as both hero and heretic, sat at the edge of the Heaven Root platform, meditating under the pale moon as the wind danced across his skin, carrying fragments of killing intent hidden deep within it. The system pulsed again. Ding! Major milestone reached, sect division triggered. 100x cultivation system initiating new tier. Title unlocked, Flame Lotus Heretic. Effect: Host gains plus 100% combat power when facing sect-based enemies. Hidden passive unlocked, Warborn. All techniques used in real battle gain 3x comprehension speed. Lu Yun exhaled slowly, absorbing the tide of power flooding through his meridians, the Lotus Spear technique refining itself in his sea of consciousness, and his Flame Thunder Lotus body evolving, igniting small runes across his bones, his muscles, even his blood. For others, such a transformation would require decades. For Lu Yun, with the hundredfold system, it took hours. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the sect, the Sword Hall, Alchemy Pavilion, and Beast Taming Peak all gathered in quiet meetings. "He must be eliminated before the summit ends," said Elder Mo coldly. "He threatens the balance we've kept for a century. Or strengthens it beyond anything we imagined," whispered Elder Yen of the Formation Hall. "If we back him now, we may birth the strongest sect of the millennium. Or we die in his fire," countered another. But while the elders debated, Lu Yun moved. No longer content to wait, he began gathering those who stood with him: Xiao Ling, who followed him without question; Lin Fei, a formation prodigy with a grudge against the Sword Hall; Wei Shan, a former alchemy genius whose dantian had been crippled by elders during a failed experiment; and Chu Yan, a beast tamer exiled for bonding with a forbidden bloodline beast. Together, they formed a new faction within the sect, not named, not recognized, but feared. Lu Yun did not command them like a general, but led them like a burning star, each step forward igniting the next path. On the third day after the duel, he moved again, this time to claim the Skyfire Pagoda, an ancient structure on the sect's northern cliffs, abandoned for 100 years, sealed by formation arrays and guarded by flame spirits that burned intruders alive. But Lu Yun did not go to claim it for prestige. He went because the system whispered of a cultivation inheritance buried within. New trial. Detected, Skyfire Pagoda trial. Estimated danger, extreme. Reward, unknown. And so he entered, alone. Flames howled around him as he stepped through the burning gates, the temperature soaring past mortal limits. Lava flowed like rivers inside the spiraling pagoda, and spirits shaped like phoenixes and lions roared from the walls. His first step was met by flame arrows, his second, by a collapsing bridge, his third, by a fire titan that swung molten fists down at his head. But Lu Yun did not falter. He moved like a spear, fast, precise, deadly, his lotus techniques adapted to burn and devour fire rather than resist it. By the time he reached the third floor, his black robes had burned to ash, replaced by lotus flames coiled around his body like armor. On the fifth floor, he found the first inheritance, a mural depicting a man with 9 flaming lotuses circling his back, standing atop a volcano surrounded by kneeling sections. Beneath it, a single line: "He who burns everything may also light the path for all." The flames bowed before Lu Yun as he stood there, and the system chimed again. Ding! Flame's sovereign legacy recognized. Inheritance unlocked. Skyfire Lotus consumes all fire-based attacks, converts to chi. Stage 1 activated, 30% flame absorption. But just as he touched the mural, a shadow stirred in the deepest part of the pagoda. A second presence, a remnant soul left behind to guard the legacy, awoke. "You are not yet worthy," it boomed, and from the fire emerged a blazing figure, humanoid in shape, with a lotus crown made of magma, its eyes twin suns. "Then test me," Lu Yun whispered. The battle was madness. Each strike from the Guardian could level a mountain, but Lu Yun grew with every clash, every dodge, every wound. He began using the Skyfire Lotus instinctively, drawing in the Guardian's attacks and sending them back amplified. His spear roared with thunder and flame, and his movements were no longer those of a Foundation disciple, they were the seeds of a future immortal. With one final clash, Lu Yun drove his spear through the Guardian's chest. The fire being smiled and began to fade. So the flame lotus blooms again, ding. Skyfire Pagoda trial complete. Full inheritance accepted. New title, Lotus that burns heaven. Effect: all fire-based techniques gain 100x comprehension rate. System evolution threshold met, awaiting next breakthrough. As Luyan stepped out of the pagoda, now glowing faintly with crimson lotuses swirling around his body, the skies above the green lotus sect darkened. Lightning danced on the horizon. War was no longer coming. It had already begun. And Lu Yun, no longer just a disciple, was its first spark. Chapter 11: Blood and Thunder on the Outer Peaks. When Lu Yun descended from the Skyfire Pagoda, the entire sect felt it, not from the sound of footsteps, but from the pulse of chi that rippled across the mountains like a coming storm. Fire lotuses bloomed beneath his steps, and thunder crackled faintly in the air around him, drawn by instinct to his evolving presence. The Flame Lotus heretic had returned, no longer an upstart disciple but a threat to the ancient order of the sect. And the old powers could not wait any longer. That night, assassins came. The Outer Peaks, home to orphan disciples, herbal gatherers, and failed talents, burned with sudden violence as black-cloaked figures descended with silent blades and soul-suppressing talismans. Their orders were clear: find Lu Yun's allies, root out his support, and scatter them before his momentum could solidify. But what they did not expect was that Lu Yun had anticipated them. As Chao Ling and Wei Shan patrolled the outer ring, formation flags activated with a pulse, and deadly array traps lit the forest floor. Exploding talismans stitched from thunder, spears of condensed flame, barriers that reflected chi back at attackers. Lu Yun's faction had turned the Outer Peaks into a death zone. When the assassins struck, their blades met steel, fire, and coordinated resistance. Lu Yun himself stood atop the central ridge, the lotus spear in his hand glowing with crimson arcs, waiting like a war god under the moon. When a group of 6 cloaked core formation assassins tried to flank from the eastern ridge, he descended upon them like a falling star, each spear thrust exploding with thunder, his footwork folding space and stepping through illusions. He didn't give them time to react. One died before he struck the ground, another was impaled through the spine, and the rest broke formation in panic. "Why is he this strong?" one screamed. "He's just foundation stage." But the hundredfold cultivation system showed no mercy to normal standards. Lu Yun's Flame Thunder Lotus body now pulsed with the strength of midcore, and with every real fight, his comprehension multiplied. The system chimed mid-battle. Ding! Passive skill improved, Warborn Battle Blooming Lotus. Effect: all techniques used in combat gain 5x improvement per strike landed. With this, Lu Yun became a tempest. He didn't dodge, he advanced. Each enemy he faced was not just an obstacle, but fuel for his cultivation. The last assassin tried to flee using a Shadow Step talisman, but Lu Yun's spear curved unnaturally in the air and skewered him mid-escape, the thunder burning through spatial ripples and reducing him to ash. Across the Outer Peaks, his allies stood victorious, bloodied but alive. Lin Fei's formation traps had stalled a full squad of inner sect saboteurs. Chu Yan and her beast companion, an obsidian panther with crimson eyes, tore through 5 chi condensation ambushers. Wei Shan unleashed an alchemical weapon Lu Yun had secretly helped him refine, a mist bomb that corroded enemy chi upon contact, turning their cultivation into poison. By dawn, the Outer Peaks were littered with corpses. Word spread like wildfire. The assassins failed. Lu Yun holds the Outer Peaks now. They've tried poison, suppression, and assassination. What will they do next? At the sect's main summit, Elder Mo slammed his palm against the war table. "We must activate the Black Bloom Order." "That hasn't been used in 100 years, another elder whispered. "It would divide the sect completely." "It's already divided," Mo growled. "Let the Black Bloom choose who remains." The Black Bloom Order was a trial by slaughter, a sect-wide bounty placed on one individual. Any disciple, elder, or ally who brought Lu Yun's head to the council would be granted inner core elder status, treasures, and a single wish within the sect's authority. The next day, jade slips flew through the air, appearing in every peak, pavilion, and courtyard. Lu Yun's name was burned into them, his bounty sealed in blood-red light. Xiao Ling stared at hers in disbelief. They really did it. Lu Yun looked at the slip and smiled coldly. Good. Now they're no longer pretending. The system pulsed. Ding. Global hostility event triggered. All sect members may now choose to ally or oppose the host. System boost, cultivation effectiveness x200 when defending against bounty attacks. New quest unlocked, survive the black bloom duration, 7 days. Bonus objective, recruit 10 named allies before end of event. Hidden quest, ascend outer peaks into independent territory. For Lu Yun, it was no longer about hiding, reacting, or surviving. It was about claiming what was his. That evening, he summoned his allies. "We take the outer peaks," he said, standing atop a cliff with the red moon behind him. "We turn them into a fortress, a sanctuary for the oppressed, the discarded, the betrayed. They want to label us heretics? Then we burn brighter than any elder dares to look at." They began at once. Lu Yun oversaw the carving of spirit veins to power formations, refining sky arrays to protect from aerial assaults. Lin Fei and Wei Shan created layered barriers fueled by elemental cores, while Chu Yen brought in rogue beast tamers who had long since fled the sect's cruel tests. Xiao Ling led information patrols, intercepting jade messages and misdirecting bounty hunters. Each step was recorded, each improvement amplified by Lu Yun's system. By the third day, the outer peaks were no longer a fringe territory, they were a rising power. Ding! Fortification milestone reached, Outer Peaks Fortress Stage 1 complete. New structure, Flame Lotus Beacon reduces enemy chi by 20% within formation zone. New title gained, Lotus Warden. The bounties kept coming. Groups of 5, 10, even 20 disciples attacked. Lu Yun responded with precision and fury, his spear never missing, his cultivation rising like an endless tide. On the Chapter 12, Sect Elders and Shattered Chains. The declaration shook the sect like a divine thunderbolt from the heavens. The outer peaks had been nothing more than wastelands, lands given to the undesired, the untalented, and the forgotten. But now, they bore banners of crimson lotus flame, formation arrays that shimmered in daylight, and disciples who walked with sharpened will. At the center of it all stood Lu Yun, the flame lotus heretic, who had now become more than just a rogue genius, he was a symbol of revolution. The response from the elders was immediate. The Sword Hall elders demanded immediate military suppression. The Alchemy Pavilion sealed off all pill resources to the outer peaks. The beast-taming peak offered bounties not only on Lu Yun but on all who allied with him. It was full-scale, open war now, and the Green Lotus sect was fracturing along its veins. Elder Mo, furious beyond reason, convened a secret meeting of 6 Grand Elders, all peak nascent soul cultivators, with centuries of heritage behind them. "He is not just defying tradition, he is dismantling it," Mo hissed. "Let us crush him before this heresy infects others." But Elder Yen of the Formation Hall shook his head slowly. "Then we will only create a martyr. If he falls in battle now, every outer court disciple will burn this sect down in his name." A pause hung heavy over the elders. "Then what do you propose?" "A trial," Elder Yen said, eyes glinting like starlight. "One the sect has not held in 300 years, the Chain Ascension test. If he passes, he is declared a true heir of the sect, beyond reproach. If he fails, the flames will extinguish themselves." The room fell silent. The Chain Ascension test was more than just a trial. It was a gauntlet of ancient sect power, meant to simulate the journey of ascension from mortal to immortal, each stage locked by illusion, cultivation suppression, and life and death combat. Most who attempted it never returned. But Lu Yun would never refuse. Not now. Not after lighting the fire. The Jade summons arrived at dusk, sealed in spiritual light and cast from the Central Peaks Elder Council. Lu Yun took it in his hand and read it aloud before his people. "Lu Yun, Outer Court Disciple, Flame Lotus Practitioner, System Breaker, by Council Decree, you are summoned to undertake the Chain Ascension test. Should you survive all 9 chains, you shall be declared Sect Flame Heir. Should you fail, you shall perish with your defiance." He closed the slip and smiled. "Then I suppose I'll have to survive." The outer peaks trembled with tension. Xiao Ling stepped forward. "It's a trap. They know you'll go." "That's why I must," Lu Yun said softly. "This is no longer just about me. It's about all of you, every disciple who ever begged for scraps, every talent cast aside. I will either open the gates, or die breaking them. That night, Lu Yun prepared. He sat alone within the flame lotus beacon, letting its light wash over his soul. The system stirred. Ding! New event, chain ascension test accepted. Warning, host will enter locked spiritual domain. No allies permitted. System buffs reduced to 10% base rate. Reward, full sect recognition, custom legacy path, direct entry to core hall. Hidden reward? System enhancement available, burn limiters? Lu Yun didn't hesitate. Burn them all. Ding! Limiters released. Host now operating at 5x base output even under suppression. Warning, physical strain will accelerate. Do it! He stood the next morning beneath the central summit, wearing nothing but a crimson robe inscribed with lotus patterns and wielding a single spear. Elders stood on a floating jade platform above. Inner disciples gathered in formation to witness. From the heavens, a single golden chain descended and wrapped around Lu Yun's right wrist. It shimmered with ancient law. Begin, Elder Mo said coldly. And Lu Yun was gone. The world twisted around him as he was pulled into the chain ascension domain. The first realm resembled the sect's outer gate, but instead of buildings, it was fire and bones. 100 demonic beasts rushed him, each at the peak of foundation stage. Lu Yun spun his spear once. Let's see if you burn. He dashed into the horde. Every thrust of his spear ignited a flame lotus. Every strike that pierced flesh created shockwaves. His thunder-imbued footwork split the land. The battle was over in 2 minutes. The system chimed. Ding! First chain broken. The second chain yanked him higher. This time, the trial was illusion. He stood in a world where Xiao Ling and the others betrayed him, where he saw his allies' corpses, where his flame techniques turned to poison. The illusions clawed at his mind, whispered his failure. But Lu Yun roared. You think I haven't doubted myself? I face death every day, your tricks are a blessing. With sheer will, he shattered the illusion and the second chain. The third world was a lake, endless and cold. A voice whispered, to ascend, you must drown the fire within. He laughed. Then I refuse to ascend by your terms. He turned his body into a bomb of lotus flame and detonated himself beneath the water, turning the lake to steam. Third chain broken. One by one, he climbed. Fourth chain, he faced his past self, weak and starving, begging on the streets. He embraced the boy and stepped through. Fifth chain, he was given a chance to turn back, to live peacefully as an elder. He smiled, broke the jade, and said, that's not me. The sixth chain was a mountain of corpses, every person he might kill if he kept walking this path. Do you accept this blood on your hands? Lu Yun whispered, yes. The seventh chain, time slowed to a crawl. He aged. Decayed. His strength drained to nothing. But with trembling hands, he dragged himself up the stairs of the seventh chain and shattered it with a bloody palm. The eighth chain was different. A voice spoke. It was not an elder or spirit, but the sect's founding ancestor. You carry too much fire, child. It will consume you. Then I will burn the heavens with it, Lu Yun whispered. I don't need your pity. Then show me. The ancestor's projection attacked a celestial palm strong enough to flatten mountains. Lu Yun burned everything. The system screamed warnings. His body cracked. His meridians bled. But he stabbed forward one last time and split the palm apart. The eighth chain shattered. The ninth chain was empty. A single mirror stood. And in the mirror, Lu Yun saw himself. No enemies. No illusions. No tricks. Just him. Will you break yourself? The mirror whispered. Are you truly ready to bear the weight of everything? Lu Yun walked forward. No. I will not break. Then what will you do? I will burn brighter than anything this world has ever known. He plunged the spear into the mirror. Light exploded. The ninth chain shattered. The jade platform above the sect shook violently. The chain holding Luyan descended, then exploded into radiant flame that painted the sky. A lotus bloomed in the heavens. A beam of golden fire surged into the sect's core hall. The elders stood in stunned silence. Ding! Chain ascension test completed. Host gains title, Flame Heir of the Green Lotus Sect. System evolution triggered, ascension mode unlocked. Luyan returned to the ground, not with a bang, but with a silent step. The wind bowed before him. The disciples on every peak stared in stunned awe. And for the first time in centuries, an outer court disciple had seized the highest path not through submission, but through defiance. Elder Mo stepped forward, but Elder Yen held up a hand. By sect law, he is now our equal. And by merit, perhaps greater. Luyan stood beneath the jade platform, lotus flames swirling around his eyes. Now, he said, voice calm and sharp as a blade, we rewrite the sect. Chapter 13, The Burning Air and the Silent Coup. The moment Luyan declared his intent to rewrite the sect, a ripple passed through the spiritual veins of the Green Lotus sect, shaking not just the mountains but the hearts of those who had clung to silence, tradition, and fear. Disciples who once avoided his gaze now fell to their knees in awe, while elders whispered among themselves with pale faces, struggling to comprehend what had occurred. Luyan, an outer court nobody a mere half-year ago, had passed the ninefold chain ascension, claimed the title of Flame Heir, and stood as the sect's legal successor under the ancient laws none dared invoke. Elder Mo's face twitched with rage beneath his composed expression, but Elder Yan's voice rang out calmly across the peaks. The Green Lotus sect recognizes Luyan as Flame Heir. Henceforth, he is to be granted access to the core flame pavilion, the inner scripture vault, and the lotus throne chamber. Any who obstruct this path shall be judged as traitors to the sect's will. The words sealed the matter. The council, despite its hatred, could not revoke a test ordained by the founding ancestor himself. But while Luyan had claimed a throne, he had not yet claimed loyalty. Power without allegiance was a blade pointed at both ends, and the roots of the sect's decay ran deeper than any one battle could cleanse. That night, he walked the peaks alone, thinking. The system's voice, ever calm, echoed in his mind. Ding! System evolution complete. New function, Ascension Mode. Effect, host may now integrate domain-type energy into cultivation path. Unlocks Lotus Domain. Passive gain, inner fire comprehension multiplied by x100 within claimed territory. Warning, Flame Heir status will now draw external sect attention. Expect infiltration attempts within 3 days. He stopped atop the summit of the outer peaks and stared at the stars. So even now, the world won't let me rest. The flames within him whispered constantly, power yearning for release, fury from past injustice demanding retribution. But Luyan was no longer a child led by vengeance. The fire had matured into something colder, focused, and terrifying. He returned to his quarters and summoned his closest allies, Xiaoling, Wei Shan, Lin Fei, Xu Yan, and a new face, a quiet formation master named by Tian who had defected from the inner sect to join Luyan's rebellion. The elders won't act directly, Luyan began. They'll use puppets. Loyal inner disciples, rogue assassins, spies planted among us. We have 3 days before the first wave. Xiaoling narrowed her eyes. Then we should strike first. No, Luyan said. We'll do something worse. We'll give them rope and let them hang themselves. The next morning, he issued a proclamation using the sect's own jade channels. I, Luyan, Flame Heir of the Green Lotus sect, hereby open the Lotus Pavilion to all disciples of the outer peaks. Furthermore, I grant temporary cultivation rights within the inner formation grounds to any who swear loyalty not to me, but to the flame itself. Let the fire judge them. It was a challenge not just to power, but to faith. The flame, one of the founding sect's core beliefs, was a symbol of rebirth and trial. By invoking it, Luyan turned his rise into a spiritual reckoning. Disciples flocked from outer court slums, from failed alchemy halls, from abandoned training fields. Many were broken, afraid, uncertain. And yet, when they stepped into the Flame Lotus grounds, the system pulsed. Ding! Group baptism initiated. Detected, 213 disciples exposed to host domain. Processing enlightenment distribution. Success. Average comprehension speed increased by 8x within domain. 5 talents awaken rare constitutions. Word spread like wildfire. By dusk, 1,000 disciples had pledged themselves to the flame, not to Lu Yun as a man, but to the movement he now embodied. This, more than battle, terrified the elders. Because movements could not be killed. Mo and his faction moved swiftly. The first night, 3 assassination teams slipped into the outer peaks. But Bai Tian's layered spiritual formation trapped them mid-flight. They screamed as their souls were drained into lotus-shaped spirit jades and crushed. The second night, poison spread through the food stores. Wei Shan, anticipating sabotage, had already replaced the herbs with null alchemy shells. The poison backfired, killing the saboteurs instead. On the third night, an inner-sect prodigy named Zhang Renshu, ranked third among the elite disciples, descended alone into the outer peaks with a jade sword forged from core flame essence. "You," he declared before the gathering crowd, "are not worthy to be flame heir." Lu Yun appeared atop a pillar of stone, spear resting over his shoulder. "Then prove it." The battle was brief, brutal, and beautiful. Renshu's sword techniques twisted flame into razor wind, creating blooming arcs of destruction with every movement. But Lu Yun no longer fought as a foundation cultivator. With Ascension mode active and the system burning in the background, he danced through the air like a comet, his spear cracking through swordlight and rewriting the sky with flame. On the 12th exchange, Lu Yun reversed his stance mid-strike, shifting from attack to counter in a movement Renshu had never seen. A flame lotus bloomed inside the prodigy's chest, destroying his core without touching his heart. Lu Yun caught him before he fell. "You're not weak," he said. "You're just bound by chains you've never tried to break." He turned to the watching disciples. "This is the truth they fear, that their strongest are only strong because you've never been allowed to grow." That moment broke something inside the sect. Even some inner disciples began to cross into the outer peaks at night, offering silent bows before retreating. Elder Mo, watching from his private hall, crushed his jade cup to dust. "If we let this continue, we won't have a sect left to control." Elder Yen said nothing. His gaze was fixed on a distant mountain, the ancestral tombs where the soul stones of the sect's founders rested. That night, Lu Yun stood alone before the tombs, summoned by Yen himself. "You have power, Lu Yun," the old man said. "But power needs legacy. Without it, fire burns out." "Then give me the key," Lu Yun said. Elder Yen produced a single crimson lotus petal, glowing with centuries of spiritual memory. "Within lies the will of the flame ancestor. If it recognizes you, you may learn the true lotus scripture." Lu Yun took the petal. It dissolved into his palm, and the world exploded. Ding! Legacy trial initiated. Warning: host must endure the memory of a celestial lotus immortal. Failure will result in soul fragmentation. Commencing soul merge, pain unlike anything he'd known surged through his spirit. He saw lifetimes, wars, betrayal, immortality and madness, all through the eyes of the one who lit the original flame. And yet, he survived. Ding! Legacy assimilation, 43%. 62%. 100%. New skill acquired, Lotus Eternal Flame. Effect: devours falsehoods and illusions. Purifies chi at 100x standard rate. Lu Yun opened his eyes. Flames danced in his veins. "I see now," he murmured. The sect wasn't just broken. It was betrayed long ago. Elder Yen bowed. "Then burn the truth into the world, flame heir." At sunrise, Lu Yun stood before 10,000 disciples and raised his hand. Flame petals fell like snow. "From this day forward, we are no longer outer court. We are the Lotus Flame sect. A new order begins today. Let the cowards hide. Let the righteous rise. Chapter 14, The Ancestors' Flame and the Forbidden Vault. The announcement rang across every peak like a drumbeat heralding revolution. Lu Yun had renamed the outer court, severed its chains, and declared the birth of the Lotus Flame sect from within the heart of the Green Lotus. What began as a rebellion had evolved into a sovereign body. No longer did the outer court disciples wear patched robes or eat rotting rations. Instead, they trained beneath floating flame lotuses, meditated in energy-rich fields carved from Lu Yun's domain, and wielded techniques once locked behind walls of inner court hierarchy. His domain now spanned 5 entire peaks, and within it, disciples cultivated at speeds that stunned even the oldest elders. Ding! Domain expansion detected. Current boundaries, 5 peaks. Passive buffs, plus 100x flame comprehension, plus 10x recovery speed, plus 5x cultivation resonance. Warning, host's influence now exceeds 40% of sect resources. Central command intervention expected. And indeed, the backlash began. On the 6th morning after Lu Yun's declaration, the Grand Elder Council invoked a forgotten rite, the Vault Lockdown Protocol. Dozens of jade vaults containing secret manuals, spiritual treasures, and ancestral flames were sealed beneath golden formation chains, cutting off access to all disciples not within the core hall. It was a warning. Lu Yun might control land, but legacy remained out of reach. He stared at the sky as golden light sealed the air above him. Xiao Ling muttered, "They're scared." Lu Yun nodded. They should be. But instead of reacting with force, he simply turned to Bai Tian. How long would it take to crack the main vault seal? Bai Tian blinked. You want to break into the forbidden vault? No, Lu Yun said calmly. I want to reclaim what was stolen from us. The forbidden vault was not just a treasury. It was the resting place of lost scriptures, forbidden flames, and experimental techniques cast aside by the inner sanctum when deemed dangerous or unstable. But Lu Yun, with the hundredfold system and the Lotus legacy, was the perfect vessel to refine what others feared. Bai Tian drew schematics from memory. There are 13 layers of formations. Each built atop ancient flame laws. The final one, Heaven Lock, is tied directly to the founding altar. Good, Lu Yun said. Then we'll start from the bottom. That night, Lu Yun and his core group descended into the mountain beneath Peak 7, entering a chamber sealed for centuries. The system responded instantly. Ding! Forbidden flame detected. Initiate Devour protocol? Lu Yun agreed without hesitation. The lotus within him blazed with hunger, and his body surged with power as ancient arrays trembled before his step. They broke the first 4 layers of the vault seal in silence, each one releasing waves of knowledge and energy that were instantly refined by the system. At the 5th seal, a voice spoke low, ancient, weary. Who dares disturb? The Vault of Forgotten Fire? It was the echo of the first sect guardian, a soul fragment bound to the flame gate. Lu Yun stepped forward, eyes glowing. I am the successor of the flame ancestor. And I have come to restore what was buried. The guardian's spirit examined him, then wept molten tears. Then let the true heir pass. The path opened. Within the vault, Lu Yun found relics long thought lost, the crimson spiral technique, which allowed flame to curve and accelerate through spatial angles, the void lotus scripture, banned for consuming spiritual roots, the ninefold ignition sutra, rejected because no disciple had survived past the 3rd ignition. But Lu Yun wasn't like them. With the hundredfold system, he began integrating all 3 at once. Ding! System notification. Host is performing multi-scripture fusion. Fusion rate, 100x optimized. Estimated result, Void Flame Spiral Lotus Body. Effect, enhances movement, devours enemy flames, burns space itself when ignited. For 12 hours, Lu Yun cultivated beneath the vault's eternal flame. His body cracked, bled, reformed. The fire ate him and remade him. And when he emerged, his very chi was now tinged with silver-black flame, the mark of void fire. Bai Tian and Lin Fei stared in awe. You're not human anymore. I never was, Lu Yun said quietly. Not since the first lotus bloomed. But unlocking the vault triggered a deeper threat. Ding! Central Command lock breach detected. Emergency response activated. Dispatching, Heaven's Chain Envoy. Back at the core hall, Elder Mo slammed a palm on the jade table. He has opened the forbidden vault. He has void flame in his soul. He must die. But the sect master, a withered figure who had not spoken in over a decade, finally stirred. His voice was dry as ash. We shall not kill him. We shall test him. Summon the envoy. The Heaven's Chain Envoy was a title given to only one cultivator every century. Someone raised from birth to maintain order in the great sections. He was not a disciple. He was a weapon. And 3 days later, he descended. The skies above the sect split as a single chain of silver divine light pierced the heavens, slamming into the core hall plaza. A man walked down from it. Clad in robes that shimmered like molten metal, eyes blindfolded with burning script, his presence alone made nascent soul elders fall to their knees. I am Heaven's Chain Envoy, he said. Flame Heir Lu Yun. You are summoned. Lu Yun stood on the steps of the Lotus Flame sect. He raised his spear. I accept. The next morning, they met in the ancient arena carved by the flame ancestor himself. No disciples were allowed entry. Only the envoy. Only Lu Yun. The fight began instantly. Chains as thick as rivers shot through space, each laced with divine suppression laws that locked down flame and severed spirit flow. Lu Yun's lotus flared to life. Void flame spun around him, devouring the chains mid-flight, redirecting the force of their impact into spatial loops. His spear blurred. The envoy didn't even flinch as his body exploded, reforming instantly. Your flame is cursed, the envoy said. It eats too much. It will consume the world. Lu Yun bled from his mouth, then laughed. Then let the world offer something worth sparing. His system blazed. Ding! Emergency limit release activated. Forbidden mode, Lotus Annihilation. A massive lotus formed in the air, 10,000 petals, each burning the law of reality. Lu Yun stepped into the center and vanished. When he reappeared, it was behind the envoy. One strike. Just one. His spear pierced the space between laws. The envoy's body shattered. Silence fell. Then the blindfolded man smiled. Good. You are worthy of ascension. His body turned to ashen chains, drifting into the wind. Ding. New title earned, Heavenbreaker. Effect, immune to chain-type suppression. Host cultivation limit raised, nascent soul barriers removed. Lu Yun turned to the horizon. The sect was his now. Truly. But far in the distance, beyond the green lotus mountains, a much darker aura stirred. One that had felt the void flames awakening. One that whispered of war. Lu Yun clenched his spear tighter. Then let them come. Chapter 15, The War Beyond Flame and the Black Lotus Sect. The ashes of the Heaven's Chain Envoy hadn't yet settled when the winds shifted, cold and heavy, as if some unseen force had exhaled across the entire continent, and Lu Yun felt it first, not with his body, but with the lotus in his soul. The void fire inside him flickered, then curled inward, hissing like a threatened beast, and for the first time since his ascension, he tasted something beyond cultivation, beyond flame, a hunger not his own but aimed directly at him, ancient and cruel. That night, while disciples celebrated his victory, while outer court peaks rang with chants of flame air, Lu Yun stood alone before the ancestral pyre, flame petals drifting around him, when Bai Tian approached with pale face and trembling hands, holding a black scroll marked with crimson ink. We intercepted this, Bai Tian said. From the northern trade routes. It came from the Dark Wind Marsh. A courier disguised as a merchant smuggled it past 3 sect borders. Lu Yun took the scroll and unrolled it beneath the moonlight. A single sentence was written across the parchment in flowing black script: We of the Black Lotus remember the traitor's fire. The next bloom will be your grave. Below that was stamped a sigil, an inverted lotus, petals soaked in ink. The Black Lotus Sect. A name thought extinct for over 1,000 years, wiped out by the flame ancestor himself during the Lotus War, their arts banished, their disciples executed or sealed, their legacy burned. And yet here it was resurrected in watching. Xiao Ling read the scroll over his shoulder and her voice dropped. If they're alive, they've been hiding inside the Great Veil. Lu Yun nodded slowly. The Great Veil was a realm of shadows and mist that sat north of the Spirit Fire Empire, a cursed zone filled with corrupted beasts, severed domains, and forgotten remnants of ancient cultivation clans. Most who entered never returned. So this is what they waited for, Lu Yun murmured. They feared the flame ancestor. But now they smell weakness. Chaos. Opportunity. The system pulsed. Ding. World threat level updated, grade B to grade S. New faction unlocked, Black Lotus sect. Danger level, critical. Host detection, you are their target of extinction. 100-fold multiplier active for all techniques used against them. Lu Yun's eyes gleamed. Then let them come. I'll burn them from the root to the seed. Over the next 3 days, all preparations ceased. Construction halted. Training grounds were sealed. Lu Yun summoned his 10 strongest disciples, each of them now at the peak of foundation or half-step core formation due to their exposure to his domain, and selected 5 to accompany him into the Great Veil: Xiao Ling, Lin Fei, Bai Tian, Wei Shan, and a silent new figure named Mu Rong, a shadow cultivator from the southern border whose blade arts could slice wind itself. We leave at dawn, Lu Yun said. The enemy hides in rot and silence. We will give them no time to fester. They travel through the abandoned north, crossing desolate villages and ancient battlegrounds, past ruined sect gates swallowed by time, until on the 7th day they stood at the edge of the Great Veil, a wall of mist rising like a mountain, swallowing even the sky. Bai Tian scanned the air with jade formations. The spiritual density here, it's warping time itself. We'll be cut off once we enter. Lu Yun didn't hesitate. He stepped through the veil and the world shattered. Inside was silence, true silence, as if the world itself had been muted. The trees bled black sap, the sky was dark and colorless, and spiritual beasts with mutated limbs stalked the mist. The group moved quickly, slicing down corrupted tigers, bone wolves, and crawling vines that whispered in voices they recognized. This place feeds on memory, Lin Fei said. The longer we stay, the more it'll know us. But Lu Yun, protected by his void flame, walked untouched, the mist parting before his steps like a frightened beast. At the center of the veil, after 3 more days of cutting and burning, they found it a city of lotuses, black and crimson, growing upside down from the clouds above a crater where the earth itself had been burned hollow. Floating palaces of bone and shadow drifted in the air. And at the heart of the city stood a single tree, dead, leafless, wrapped in chains of black qi. That's not a tree, Xiao Ling whispered. That's a corpse. Lu Yun nodded. The first flame lotus. The ancestor they sealed during the war. The Black Lotus sect had never died. It had hidden beneath the corpse of its own founder, feeding on hatred and corrupted legacy, waiting for the blood of the true heir to complete its resurrection. And now, Lu Yun had walked straight into their trap. The ground cracked open beneath them. Hundreds of figures in black robes emerged from the walls, sky, and shadows. Their faces were hidden by crimson masks, and their chi pulsed with twisted laws, flame that devoured life, not purified it. From the palace above, a woman descended. She wore a crown of ink-stained lotus petals, her eyes black and endless. I am the Black Bloom, successor of the withered flame. And you are the final ash needed to awaken our god. She waved her hand and the chains around the ancestor's corpse pulsed. A massive spiritual heart began to beat within the tree's hollow center. Lu Yun's system roared. Ding! Catastrophe class ritual detected. Resurrection attempt in progress. Time remaining, 1 hour. Solution: destroy the heart or kill the priestess. Lu Yun raised his spear, now infused with void flame and blooming petals of spiraling energy. Then let's end this before it begins. The battle erupted. Xiao Ling and Lin Fei struck from above with flame arrows and sweeping sword arcs. Wei Shan shattered the ground with seismic fists while Bai Tian sealed retreat routes with twisted formations. Mu Rong vanished and reappeared. leaving corpses behind him like falling petals. But the Black Lotus disciples were madmen, immune to pain, fighting with blood curses and soul-burning techniques. The sky blackened as the heart in the tree beat faster. The black bloom rose above the battlefield, drawing the ancestors' chi into her body, forming a twisted lotus of 10,000 blades. Fall, heir of the traitor. Lu Yun answered by igniting his void flame. He entered lotus annihilation mode, petals exploding around him like suns. His spear clashed with her blade lotus, space cracking around them. Blow after blow reshaped the city. With each strike, he felt time and death pressing closer. Ding! System limit reached. Overdrive available, use Forbidden Flame Codex? Warning, may consume 10 years of lifespan. Lu Yun smiled and whispered, take 50. The lotus in his soul burst into black flame. His spear became a streak of void. One strike pierced her chest, shattering the god heart behind her. The corpse tree wailed as the ritual collapsed. Black Lotus disciples screamed, their masks shattering, bodies melting into ash. The black bloom tried to speak, but Lu Yun burned her words away. Silence returned. The city fell. And the great veil cracked open, like returning for the first time in 1,000 years. Lu Yun stood alone atop the dead ancestors' tree, body broken, spirit aflame. Ding! Catastrophe averted. Black Lotus sect, annihilated. New title acquired, Flamebane. Effect, all cursed techniques reduced by 90%. Immune to soul corruption. Lifespan remaining, unknown. Xiao Ling called his name. He turned. It's done, he said. But it's only just begun.